So today we're going to talk specifically about how do we use Substack to grow our author presence. And the more people know about us, ultimately marketing is this. The more people know about us, the more opportunities people can say yes to us. So that comes with any kind of business. That comes with any kind of business. And if we are selling our books, guys, we're in business. Even though we may not want to be, or we may not think we are, we actually are. So we can talk about the meaning of business another time. We talk a lot about that in the creative entrepreneur incubator space, but also here, how the whole question is, and this question has been driving me for over 20 years, which is, how do I be a creative in business? So we have to do things that feel good. And so far, Substack has been pretty fun to play with, especially once we started doing these lives, because both Gala and I like to talk. So if you're a talker, Substack lives, I just have to say, are a fabulous way to go out there and let yourself be known. But here's the thing. Most authors, fiction authors, aren't going to want to do lives. They're in their cave, right? You're in your cave. You don't want to show your face. You don't necessarily want to pick up a mic. That's for people like us who are performers, essentially. It's kind of a performance, right? Yeah. So what else? So I'm going to talk about the first tip, and Gala, chime in. And the first tip is serialization. I saw someone serialize her novel on Substack before she launched it out there on the retailers. So savvy. It was beautifully branded. It had a banner that was the vibe of her book. I think it was like I want to say like a gothic thriller, had a lot of atmosphere, so she could represent that in the banner that just you make once and goes out with your, you can use it for every post. She serialized it, very simple header, jump right into the story. And then down at the bottom, she would say, stay tuned for chapter 2 or for the next part. And then she also would say, and be sure to be subscribed so you can hear when I launch the book. Because it's a different reading experience, obviously, reading on Substack versus reading on your Kindle or a physical book. So serialization has been around since Dickens, if not before, right?
Yeah.
So Charles Dickens, he's the original self-published author. He even paid for, I think it was A Christmas Carol, and he got his book serialized in the newspaper, and we still know and love him today. So man knew how to market. He was quite the go-getter in that way. So nothing wrong with serialization. A little sneak peek, I am going to serialize an already published novel because I want to see if Substack will help me find a new audience on Substack. I write, it's my young adult adventure fantasy, which is right behind me, Henrietta the Dragon Slayer. I am reissuing it. I've just gone through it with a fine-tooth comb and the prequel, which is a freebie. And there's a few other elements that are going to be going along with it. And books 2 and 3 are going to get a pass, all published already. I'm going to serialize them. And then along the way, I'm going to do what I'm about to suggest next. But before I do that, do you have any thoughts about serialization? Have you been following others? Okay.
So many.
Tell us.
Just to start with, I come from serialization myself. I started on Wattpad. I started writing serialized fiction, and that was like my first publishing experience and interaction with readers. And when I started on Wattpad, it was not paid. I was a brand new writer. I had 0 finished books, 0 published books, and I was writing what I say under the table. But I am a community person at heart, and I just wanted to have feedback, and I wanted to find a writing community, and I ended up on Wattpad. Long story is because I read Colleen Hoover's book that she was writing on Wattpad and interacted with it as a reader. So I knew Wattpad as a reader. And then afterwards, when I was researching, Googling where can I post my stuff for free so people can read it? Wattpad was one of the things that popped up, and I started using it. So I started doing it, and I had a lot of fun interacting with readers, and that is so useful because you're basically getting, depending on what you're doing, alpha readers. If you are actually writing the book and posting, which is what I was doing, I did not have a completed book like you. I was
Mhm.
just pantsing my way through my first book, and I was publishing chapter after chapter. And we just were talking before it. I'm very deadline driven, and everybody on Wattpad at that time said you have to post at least once a week for the algorithm to pick you up. So I was like, okay, I need to write a one chapter a week. So it was really good for my brain and for my deadline driven brain to actually like, okay, I'm going to be doing one chapter a week, one chapter a week.
Yeah.
And sometimes I tried to do more, like in case I was going on vacation or just like to have a little bit of a buffer. But I was pretty close, usually within one or two chapters. And I got alpha reader feedback, so a lot of people came, but a lot of people are readers and writers. So I ended up meeting a lot of other writers who were also pretty much in the same ish stage, which they were never published. They were writing either their first or second, maybe book on Wattpad. And I met a bunch of people that way. And my writing community started on Wattpad. And then in the end, they ended up paying me, and I was actually writing for them and getting paid for several years. So it turned out into a paid opportunity. So now
Mhm.
with Substack, you have a chance to do the same thing, but you have a chance to get paid. And I actually have two people that I can recommend to you to go and check out. First, Maddie Dellenport, we just had a Substack live with her in June. She just started serializing her detective story. It's the last story in her book, and she is having a lot of fun. I think she put her first 5 or 7 chapters for free, and then she put up a paywall so that people are subscribing, and she's having a lot of fun. And you can go and watch our recording, my interview with her, and we talk a lot about this. And then in August, we're going to meet up again, and she's also a project manager like me. So we're like, we need to do lessons learned. It's important as a project manager. It's just like you need to do lessons learned and ingrained in you. So we're going to talk and debrief. She's going to tell me what worked, what didn't, what are the results were, all of that kind of stuff. So that's happening in August. I'm also having an interview on the 23rd with Sandhya Jane Patel, July 23rd. She is going to be building a fantasy community on her Substack, and she's going to be using Substack for building community, which is another thing that we're going to talk next. So I'm not going to jump over there. And I'm also going to be talking, I haven't recorded this yet, don't tell Monica, but I'm recording for Monica Leonel and her Expand Summit that is happening at the end of July, I believe, about how to use your IP, the singular thing, and do different iterations. Like serialization is one of them. It's you get paid, you write the story, or you, if you finished your first draft, you're putting it up and you are editing maybe chapter by chapter, and that's what you're putting in, and you're getting feedback from readers, and you're getting paid. And you're kind of having deadlines for yourself to keep working through the thing. And then you take that thing and you actually publish it as an ebook or ebook and paperback, and you get paid. And then can you do it a Kickstarter with this? Like this is a whole other thing, but serialization, think about it as one of the packages your product can be sold in. So your singular book is a product and you don't sell it once. You want to sell it multiple times, and serialization is one of those ways. And going back to what you were talking about before, using Substack, if you are an introvert, if you don't want to show your face, this is a perfect place. I feel like Substack is this perfect marriage where you can have the visual stuff, and Substack takes a really good care of you. They do all of the editing and cutting up of things. You don't need to do any of that. It does all of it for you. You like literally sit there, record it, click on uh, publish, and then it does all the editing on its end. So if editing is what is holding you back, that's at least what was holding me back from using YouTube. Substack does all of that. So that was nice. But long form writing is so hot here. So
Yeah.
you really will find people who want to sit and read. Like
Yeah.
they are already pre-selecting themselves by coming to Substack. Those are the people who want to read long form. So you automatically, like if you're
Yeah.
looking at your circles, who your audience is, these people already pre-selected themselves. I want to read long form things.
Yeah.
Such a huge bonus on Instagram. or TikTok, those are not people who want to read long form necessarily. Those are people who are scrolling through short form things, right? These are the people who read long things. So
Yeah. So yeah,
a
that's
lot of things.
great. I
Beth,
love this. I love your enthusiasm. And if you can see the chat, I put my serialization, Henrietta the Dragonslayer.substack.com. I put Maddie's, the interview you did with Maddie is in the chat. And then I also put Gala's channel, y'all, so you can follow along with her writing conversations. Fabulous interviews. I'm just so excited for all these great interviews. I was like, oh, I didn't realize you talked to a screenwriter. That's so cool because I'm working on screenwriting. So let's so with serialization,
she is great. Like if you need screenwriting connections, she is great. I would totally connect you to. You'll love her.
Yeah, please do. So let's segue to community, and also if you want to use Substack as a blog, because I think these two things go together. Substack, using Substack like a blog. So I've been blogging for a long time, and I used to teach blogging to local business owners with a friend. We called it Breakfast Blogging Club. It was so awesome. Got me blogging. She would teach marketing. I would teach writing. Essentially, when you use Substack as a blog, now you're talking to your readers. You're not talking to other writers. Hey, here's tips on writing. You're saying, here's what inspired my book. Here's why I have been driven to write this book. Then there's a lot of different inspirations that you probably have, and each one of those could have a blog post. I wrote a whole series on why kick-ass heroines, and I can still write more because I talked about my influences from TV and film and folklore. But then I also talked about why this book, why Henrietta? Well, I read fairy tales as a kid, never saw a girl go on adventures. And I'm like, hey, what about the girl? And so when I could, I started writing my adventure. In fact, I started it at age 19. And then I had to go have adventures, and then I could write the book when I was about 30. So I had to go live overseas and all these things. So, and then you could write posts about your articles. About your characters. I did that it was so fun for some of my romances to go and look at the pretty, men and go, ooh, my hero, he looks like this, and my heroine, she looks like that. But here's the unique characteristics about them. Also, who inspired them. If your characters are inspired by real people that you've met or known or seen or observed, or, oh, it was a stranger on the street, and then they were like this, but then I created a whole story out of them like that. I've done that. Also, setting. You can write posts about setting. I love this myself, I am a traveler, but I'm also an armchair traveler, and books are a great way to travel, right? So take me to your setting. Even if it's an invented fantasy or sci-fi setting, take me, I went to Vegas to study hotel casinos so I can make a hotel casino on a space station. So I could write about our Vegas trip and what specifically did I get inspired by and use. And then what are the decisions I made in my sci-fi that reflected, it's the Bellagio in space, but then sci-fi, I added all the sci-fi elements. But there are things in the real world that inspire our settings. Talk about them, show pictures about them. I love reading that in my favorite authors. And there's more. I'm sure there's more. You could talk about the internal character arc. I've been practicing this in my short form marketing, but you could talk about, how your character goes from, like I'm writing my story right now, she goes from being an orphan and alone and kind of in charge of a band of orphans to finding her family, her real heritage, like rediscovering her heritage and rediscovering who she really is. So that's in a nutshell her arc. So I could talk about that once the book is done, and I'm for sure know what the arc is. So that's because people read for different reasons. So you can highlight all these different things. You can talk about the world arc and the big external plot change. You can talk about the character arc and their internal change. You can also talk about the world and all the other things that I mentioned. So, and then in doing so, you're not just talking at, you can ask for, hey, what's your favorite kind of character like this? Or, hey, I love this setting. Have you been there? What's your favorite place? I made these changes in my story. I invented this, that, and the other, but these things are real, and this is why. Have you been there? So when you use Substack's a community. And I know you mentioned community, Gala. And so when you post about your books and these little nuggets, then talk to your audience and ask them, what do they think? What's their favorite kind of such and such? And see what they say, and then interact and say, oh, awesome, thanks. And get their opinion, but only do it from a place of genuine interest. If you're not interested in other people's opinion, don't ask for their opinion. But, you know, lean into what you're curious about and use that to ask questions to your audience. And yeah, I'm going to pause here and hand it over to you for the second tool of using Substack as a blog as a fiction author.
Mm-hmm. And I see Phyllis had a question for me, Gala. What do you think of Wattpad now? And if you had both choices back then, would you have gone Substack instead? That is a very interesting question. I think that Wattpad is still a very valid place to go and publish for free. I don't think that you should go to Wattpad if you are interested in monetization, because yes, you can monetize with Wattpad, but it's a very long leg. You need to prove yourself to Wattpad and kind of be seen and have grow. It's a little bit like when big publishers pick up indie publishers for their print books and stuff like that. Oh, you created your own audience. People are actually reading it. You've proven that you are interesting to readers. Let us pick you up and pay you so that now you're going to keep writing for us, and we're going to monetize it, and we're going to take a cut, and you're going to get a cut, but we will push it a little bit further out and to wider audiences and sponsor you and like put you in more prominent spaces. So I would say Substack for monetization is a better choice. You have a much better opportunity to actually monetize. And Wattpad, if you don't want to worry about marketing or anything else, if all you want to do is you want to write your story, publish consistently, get some feedback from people, meet some people, it's still a very valid place to go and do this. It's free, and yeah, it's nice to have eyes on your book. If you want eyeballs on your book, is where I would go and do Wattpad without any expectations. It's kind of like um, uh, still being a writer and not necessarily being that much of a marketer. Although even with Wattpad, the people who had a lot of success, a lot of them are going on TikTok and or Instagram or somewhere else on social media and are promoting their book too. So it also could be good practice. But yeah, that would be my answer. Back to what we were talking about. So one thing I wanted to mention is a lot of people are talking to me about Substack. My clients, I usually have a conversation with them about a Substack versus a newsletter. And can Substack be your newsletter? And my answer is yes, Substack can be your newsletter if you want less hassle and free. And until you start selling anything, if all of you're doing is building a community and training yourself to regularly produce something, and you want to chat with you people, I think Substack is a great one-on-one newsletter. When having an actual newsletter provider is valid is when you start doing different automations. Although now on Substack, you can actually batch newsletters, and they will be sent out. So you don't have to like publish and do it, publish and do it. So I haven't checked out that feature, but when I was putting together the creative entrepreneur thing, for us for the Substack, that was one of the checklists. Do you want to like batch your thing? So we're going to investigate that.
Okay.
But
Gala, what do you mean by batch? Do you mean schedule ahead in
yeah,
advance?
I think it's called batch. So, but I'm assuming it's probably scheduled in advance, and then it's gonna schedule and send them out at different times. So
Right.
not quite an automation, a sales automation, right? But still. So I think when you're starting a newsletter, and you are intimidated or you don't have the money, Substack is absolutely a great one-on-one newsletter, and you do keep all of your newsletter subscribers, so you can download an CSV file afterwards if you get to a point where, well, no, I actually need now a full-fledged a newsletter provider, and you can just download it's not a social media where you have all of these followers but you don't have their information. You have their information, you can download it, you can move them. You're going to have to go through reconsenting, but that's like totally doable 100%.
Mhm.
So I really think that with Substack and building a community, you build a community like on Wattpad. People are going to get to know you. But B, you also get to practice. You get to practice pitching your story, right? So what Beth was talking about, oh, write about the world building and what inspired it, write about anything as you're working through your story, any problem you have, any discovery that you have that you're writing about, oh, I think my story is not just this genre, but this genre, and this genre blend, and you had that discovery, you can write a post about it. And it doesn't have to be 2000 words long. A post on Substack can be any length. Like, I think people get intimidated by Substack because they feel like long form means really long form. No, long form on Instagram, you're capped by 2000 characters. So in my mind, like anything that is 2000 characters or more is automatically long form. And 2000 characters, my God, that's very short, right? So you can basically kind of a little bit journal or document your own discoveries and even your own thought process. And you're like, well, I'm writing this scene and I don't know this, or this. And you are showing in the internal world of your characters and of your story. And please, 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 please do not worry about spoiling things for the readers. It does not work that way. Most of the people, I swear, most of the people will only get hooked and invested and want to know more if you are going to give them these types of glimpses. Because I kid you not, I talk to so many beginner authors who start saying, well, but I don't want to tell them actually what is happening in my book. I give this veiled things to the reader because if they find out what this is actually about, they're not going to want to read. I'm like, no, 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 they will. They will, because they're not reading exactly for information. They're going to read for the experience. You are not going to be able to summarize your story in an article. It's going to be juicy and interesting.
Yeah.
So there are the messages. As you discover your story, use it and talk about it, and also see what people respond to, because this is your sort of like A/B testing. So if you're talking about this about your book, a lot of people are commenting. You're like, oh, people like that. So when you're going to do your marketing, that is the thing you're going to be taking and doing. What I've learned about social media content, I've been studying it very much in the last year, is that most of the content creators do not have 100 different topics that they talk about. They have the same like 5 things.
Yeah.
And this type of writing, as you're writing and as you're exploring your story and you're discussing it on Substack, you're going to gauge what people respond to, and you're going to take that and you're going to repeat it. You're going to write about that thing again slightly differently. And then you're going to basically like stack those things that people are commenting on. And in your marketing, that is what you're going to be leaning into, because you did basic market research. By doing this, by seeing what people respond to, you have the answers. You're not the person who is like, I wrote this book in a vacuum. I don't really know who the reader for my book is. I don't really know what they want. I'm just going to start creating this random marketing copy. You are at a huge advantage
That's
because
so great.
you already have the answers.
That's so great.
I'm very passionate about it. I feel like half an hour is not enough.
No, this is definitely something we can talk about more. And so let's start to wrap up, because I promise folks, I like to do these in 30 minutes. So if you would like to know more about marketing, book marketing as a novelist, please join us for next time. We're going to talk about another topic. And if you have an idea for us, send it our way. We could talk about author branding statement, which is something I teach about a lot and have been teaching for over 15 years. Phyllis is giving a recommendation for Jane Friedman. She's awesome. We love her. We got to see her live. I've seen her at conferences. We both have her book. Yeah, Jane Friedman is awesome. She's big in LinkedIn as well, where I hang out also.
And
So
she has been growing her Substack too. If you can check it out, she's been actually very active on Substack.
yeah. So I want to mention a third way that you could be growing your presence on Substack. And that's kind of what Kel and I are doing. Like, we're coming in as writing teachers, but we're also like, and by the way, we're authors. Notice, we did really light mentions of our fiction, but if people are curious, go to Amazon, right? Go find us online. You can find our fiction. So that's a very soft way to, we're growing our presence, and we make it clear that we're novelists. So today we talked about serialization, about using your Substack as a blog, about experimenting, paying attention to what people respond to. And if you are curious to know more about either of us, I'm going to offer you my special offer, which a lot of you have who are here, but maybe not. Maybe you're new. I offer a monthly edit lab. And if you join us before the next one, which is our next call is August 5th. So if you join us by August 4th into the membership, you can have your work live edited, plus get your questions answered. Phyllis is part of that. And woohoo! And Gala's
I'm part of it too.
and so to find out about that and get started, sign up for the Edit Your Novel Checklist. That's at edityournovelchecklist.com. You can download my PDF, and it comes with a little welcome sequence. You'll learn about it, how to use it. It's the 30,000 foot view, how to get through how to start your editing on your novel. I work specifically with science fiction and fantasy writers of all stripes and kinds and mashups. It's awesome. So that is my special offer. Gala, you have a special offer today, and then we're going to close on time if we can. That would be awesome.
Yeah, I'm going to email you because I can't insert it on my phone. So I'm going to email you my link.
Go ahead.
What I'm doing in July and August is I am offering people a 1 hour strategy call, free of charge. We can discuss whatever is it that you're struggling with. And what I'm trying to get out of it is I'm looking to see what kind of problems people are having and what kind of materials and courses can I create to help people. So to me, this is a little bit of a market research, and so you're helping me, but as a result, you have an hour with a book coach, and you can also see what it is like working with me and working with a book coach. And if that is something that is interesting to you, I have a limited number of spots because I'm not going to be doing it every day, all day. I think like I'm going to do 3 this month and like 5 next month or something like that. I'll just see how my capacity goes, but first come, first served. And I'm very excited about it because I have so many ideas and I really want to narrow down and figure out, well, out of all of my ideas, what do actually people crave and want? So come and hang out with me. Beth, I emailed the link to you to Calendly. So you
I see it. Excellent. Ooh, I love it. It's a very specific link. Great. So hop on this. If you'd like a strategy call with Gala, see if you want to work with her. I offer these as well for science fiction and fantasy authors who want to do deep dives in editing their manuscripts. Just reach out to me and we can set that up. And it's also on my contact page. You can just write me. I'm in a bit of a reorganization, so I don't give out my Calendly link at this point, even though I have one. Although actually I'm changing my tech, but anyway, that's a conversation for another time. Next week, we're going to do how to write your author branding statement and why that's important for your author marketing. If you have other questions, guys, please shoot them to us either on Substack or direct through email. I think that we're both very passionate about marketing. It's important to learn how to market as a creative, and I insist that we can do it in a way that suits each of us. There is no one size fits all. There's no magic pill. Sadly, you got to find what works for you, and I'm a big proponent for that. Yeah.
I think that the most important thing I learned about marketing is you need to experiment. And I'm an experimenter. We people who haven't taken our quiz, Beth, I do not know if you want to put the quiz link there. But it's important to know what kind of person it is. Like to me, I like experimenting and figuring out what works, what doesn't, and then do what I actually want to do. But what I've learned as I've been marketing so many things on the internet, including my books, is that you need to do something that you are going to be okay doing day in and day out. Like if you hate being on video, do not force yourself in doing it because you're going to be hating it. You're going to be delaying. You're going to be procrastinating. And even if for that person that worked, for you, that might not be the thing. Like I urge you to examine yourself and say, what would you have fun with? And go from the fun part. Oh, it would be fun for me to do this consistently all the time. And just like a writing is a practice, marketing is also a practice. At the beginning, it's harder, but as you start doing it, it kind of becomes this, like you used to brushing your teeth, you just get used to doing the marketing thing as long as you're not like resenting that marketing effort, as long as you look at it as fun. And then consistency means different things. So once a week could be your consistency to begin with, once a month. Pick your consistency and stick with it. And as you get comfortable with it, you can increase it. Don't feel like, oh, if I start doing marketing, I will have to market every single day. And then you're scared and then you do nothing. Doing something, taking that one step, even if it's slower, is going to benefit your marketing and your book world telling people about yourself much more than trying to be perfect and doing everything perfectly from the get-go. That's my last
Yeah,
thing that I want to leave you with.
Oh no, that's so great. All right, everyone, have a great week. Happy creating, happy writing. We'll see you here next week, same time. And reach out to us if you have any questions. So we're going to go, and that's a wrap. Ciao, ciao. Bye.
Bye.